Welcome back to the Real Estate Den. This is episode 25. Today we have Brian out of Vancouver and Jerome out of Phoenix. Welcome to the Real Estate Den. How are you?
Thank you.
Great.
Awesome. So let's get right into this. Brian, tell us about you, what you do, how long you've been in the industry, and a little bit of what you did before that.
Oh man. Hi, my name is Brian Stone. I'm a mortgage lender. I run the PNW loans team. I hold my license with a bank out of California called CMG Financial. We are, I believe, the largest independently owned retail mortgage loan company left in America. We have a few interested patented products. I've been a mortgage lender for over 14 years now. And I'm licensed in about 20 different states. I like to say the entire West Coast, including Alaska and Hawaii for the most part. And I sprinkle in the Carolinas and Florida and Wisconsin, Minnesota, a few other random states. I don't have any connections in the Midwest, so I kind of leave out the Midwest and the Northeast. But everywhere else in America, I lend in. I like to say all the states where people actually want to live. Sorry. And jobs that I did prior to mortgage lending, I think it really benefited me. I was a project manager for quite a few years for some of the larger national banks. It's what I, went through large part of my education for was project management. I'm really glad to not be in that role any longer, but it was a really good learning experience while I was there. So
awesome. Jerome, tell us a little bit about you, what you do in the industry. You said you have a team, and
I gotta ask though, Brian, that painting on your wall, man, what's the story behind that? Did I miss that?
Sorry. Yeah, I forget it's there half the time. That is a painting of me grabbing a bull by the horns. That is my homage to Dodgeball with Ben Stiller when he was that chauvinistic
Oh, yeah.
asshole that was wearing spandex trying to impress the girl. So yeah, mortgage lending, people always feel like they're being judged, right? They feel like they've got this, uptight banker in a three-piece suit that's sitting there with an approve stamp in one hand and a decline stamp in the other. I do my best to make people feel really comfortable and get over it. And I, as you can tell, enjoyed being the class clown growing up. So I don't mind being the butt of my own joke.
I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, my sister-in-law is a very talented artist. She actually painted this, and it's big. It's like 5x4. So
that was my follow-up question. Okay, we'll have to have a screen grab of this just so we can see it. Can we put a picture in the show notes? Just because this is typically okay. Perfect. I love that.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for the clarification. I mean, I'm sure you're that ripped with your shirt off, which is awesome.
I may have had her add a little bit more muscle than is real.
A little muscle, yeah. Well, I'm sure you look like that. We'll just leave it at that.
Exactly. Thank you. Wonderful. I appreciate
that. Sorry to go back to your question. So we're about 90 agents deep here in Phoenix. Started back in with my partner Tyler Blair back in 2017. And we've slowly, organically grown our team here in Phoenix as the markets continued to expand and grow here in the Valley. And real estate's an incredible and noble profession if you do it right. And we've been able to help a lot of really good people change their lives for the better by selling real estate with us.
So 90 agents in Phoenix specifically, or throughout the state of Arizona, or?
Throughout the state. So Phoenix is our main hub. And I say Phoenix, but I'm referencing, like Chandler, Mesa, Gilbert, just the suburbs of the Phoenix metro. And then we have a team up in Show Low, Arizona, which is about 3 hours north of Phoenix. And then we have a team down in Tucson, which is about an hour and a half south of Phoenix. And we're also expanding to Prescott, which is kind of west of Phoenix, northwest, Prescott, Flagstaff, Sedona. And then we are looking to partner with another team up in St. George, Utah this year. So it's slowly starting to grow and expand as we get louder about who we are and what we have to offer.
That's amazing. Brian, what year did you say you got into mortgage?
2010. I
2010.
jumped in right after the crash.
Okay, great. So you guys were both sort of established into business before when COVID sort of happened.
Right.
Where you I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. It's been one of those Mondays. This is why I don't typically schedule things on Mondays. My bad. I have two under two. We were up a
That's all
lot
right.
last night. They don't sleep at the same time. It would really be a lot more effective if they just would sleep at the same time. I would be able to gather my thoughts. a little
Yeah,
That's okay.
understood. Mine are 6 and 9, and I'm just happy that I'm no longer changing diapers. I'll take it.
This is the kind of thing that's easy to edit, so we're
Perfect.
good.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, I feel like silence is a good thing for them to sort of get rid of. If I've got
Yes.
anything silent. If you could go back and tell yourself one thing when you started, what would that be, Brian?
Oh man. I would have told myself to, on day one, start my CRM. I don't think I actually really was keeping track of every client and all the contact info and really what loan type they were set up with and what rate, everything that a good loan officer has in their CRM. It probably took me 2 or 3 years to finally get that set up. So I didn't start it until like 2013, maybe 2014. But I've captured just about every piece of data since then. Like every new loan officer, new loan officers are dangerous because you don't know what you don't know. And unfortunately, if I was meeting Brian in 2010 again, I would probably share my current loan setup with him and say, you're going to run it this way forever. Don't change it. And a lot of that is utilizing your underwriting early. I don't understand why mortgage lenders wait to submit a file to underwriting until, there's only 2 weeks left until closing. You should have every loan into an underwriter and fully pre-approved prior to even issuing the letter. That way you can close in half the time that a normal lender does, and it gives you a leg up on making the offers.
Absolutely. That's great advice. Jerome, what would you go back and tell yourself?
Yeah, well, I guess just to touch on Brian's comment, CRM is everything. And that's one thing I got right at the beginning, thank goodness. I mean, our lifeblood is our CRM, and not all CRMs are created equal. We've jumped through 4 or 5 to finally find the one that we feel is best for us. But if I were to go back in time, advice would be, choose partner wisely. I've had some partners that have expedited my business 100-fold, and I've had some that have set me back. And had I been patient and chosen my partners wisely, I would have been able to shave off a lot of stress and would have been able to hit my goals a lot sooner. So that would be my piece of advice to anybody who's looking to get into the real estate industry: is choose your brokers and your partners wisely, because that'll make or break the next 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years of your business.
What do you look for in a good partner? Like, what are good differentiating features between a good and a bad?
There has to be some sort of track record. If there isn't track record or something to compare them against, I wouldn't do it. It's not worth taking the chance. And so I would definitely go back, figure out what they've done in the past, who their partners were, who they worked for, and I would just do your due diligence on who they are as a person. If you know them as a person already and you're great friends, awesome. Then I'd even check twice as hard, because those are the relationships that are the hardest ones to break. When you partner with a good friend or a family member and things don't work out, that's when it gets sticky, and you stay in this business relationship with them because of the personal relationship you have. And that just, it's a hard thing to fix.
Absolutely. What do you look for in a good CRM? And I'll have both of you kind of answer that question, because you both touched on the systems. And I think that is like the unsung talked about. Everybody's got like a shiny new lead for a realtor or somebody to purchase, but systems are really kind of where it's at. So what do you guys do to pick a good system or a good CRM? Sorry.
Yeah, it has to be able to do automate for you. If it can't auto text, auto email for you, find something else. Our CRM sends automatic e-alerts, so like property alerts, and that saves us a ton of time. And our CRM also, it notifies us what to do based off of behavior. And so that has been a huge time saver for us. So instead of cold calling your leads through the database, it actually tells you who to call because they were on your website an hour ago, instead of just shooting in the dark.
That's great. Which you want to, maybe you'll get a discount. Do you want to plug who you use?
Oh yeah, I don't get a discount, but I use Sierra Interactive.
Sierra Interactive, awesome.
Nice.
And it's partnered with Follow Up Boss.
Okay, perfect.
Both.
Brian Stone, what are you doing with your systems? Because I saw we met online via his. I was looking at some reviews, and he's got an excellent web presence, and so that sort of, you need to have something to feed your CRM, right? So
Yeah.
tell us about your CRM and like what you sort of look for in a good one.
I will not plug the current CRM that I'm using because honestly, I don't think they're that great. I'm actually in the process of paying a software engineer to code my own CRM, and we're in the middle of creating that the way that I want to see it done. My firm belief, I've seen this over and over again with like younger loan officers that I talk to about this. The best CRM to use is the one that you're actually going to use. And I know that sounds cliche, but there's so much analysis paralysis. Oh, I need to make sure I have the right one. I got to get the best deal with the best options and the best tools available. And then I have to test it out. And then I have to, get access to it and start plugging in all my info. The only thing that matters is, are you actually going to use it? And how quickly can you start to implement that? And then once you're under the way of using that CRM and you're getting a feel for it, you'll know if it's missing a tool that you need to be able to run your business. And it's not that hard. Every CRM makes it so that you can port all of your leads and you can send them over to the next company and figure out. So my advice to newer loan officers or loan officers that don't have any CRM is just get something. My other advice is not to use your company sponsored CRM because a lot of companies will try, and I've seen it, I've never had it done, but if you left your bank and you were using your bank CRM, sometimes they'll claim those as their clients, not yours. Other times they will farm your clients out to other loan officers once you leave to have them call all of your prospects and all of your clients. So it's best to use CRM you can.
Totally. I totally agree. I've said that many times. The best CRM is the one that you use. And I specifically don't have a brokerage CRM because my agents are like, what CRM do you provide? I'm saying nothing because I don't want your contacts. I want to help you sell real estate. And in order to do that, I don't need to have it. There are some structures where, of course, it seems to make sense. And there's a lot of areas in where that's different. And I think that's, that's great if you can use it. And a lot of people have been successful with their company CRMs. I unfortunately was on the other end of those stories that you hear when you leave, and then people are trying to access your stuff. So if you're working with people who have integrity, it's also not an issue. So what do you both? So it's unique because typically we've before on the show we've had like two lenders or like two realtors or two investors. I love this show because we've got a realtor and a lender. So it's going to be the opposite question for both of you. Brian, what are you looking for in a good like realtor partner? What are you've been in the industry, you've both been in the industry for a while. What are you noticing in a realtor that you want to work with versus that you don't want to work with?
I'll be honest, I don't work with a ton of the realtors that are the top of the top of the top of their region that have a team of 9 under them, where the realtor kind of the marketing figurehead and nobody that works with that realtor ever ends up working with them. I'm not saying that's a bad business model. I'm not saying that doesn't work. I personally don't typically gravitate towards that sort of a team. I'm really big on relationship building. I'm really big on following through with what I say I'm going to do. And I love to kind of save the day and play the hero, but I don't, I don't chase after somebody because they have remarkably high volume. I chase after people who have a very steady, book of business, who are usually relationship based. I like that compared to the heavy internet leads models that are out there. Although both certainly work, they're just different models. The other thing that I really look for in a realtor partner is, and it, again, a little cliche, but communication. Pick up the phone, call me when something's wrong. Maybe we don't want to put that thing in email, but you should call me and say, hey, Brian, it seems like these buyers are a little sensitive towards this and this. When you talk to them, be aware of that. And the other item for realtors that you would think that this is very simple and very well known, a lot of them screw this up, especially with like new construction, when it's a 5 to 6 month process for the client from contract to close. A lot of the time, there are going to be change orders. There are going to be addendums. I have had realtors who have asked throughout the process, hey, any change orders, any addendums? Nope, we're good. We get to 10 days before closing, and escrow goes, hey guys, just checking in on loan docs. We're like, yeah, we have those about ready. And escrow says, oh, how come your purchase price is $70,000 lower than I show it should be? Well, as a lender, I would only know if the realtors involved sent me those addendums or change orders. Luckily, we were able to make that work, but had those realtors not, had they have not had us backing up the client and being able to get that loan closed, that could have caused a sale fail. If you're not alerting all parties before you go under that contract change, $70,000 can make or break a lot of buyers. So it's just really important to have somebody that's on top of those items and on top of the communication that's needed to make both sides successful. Because and Jarom, you can speak to this however you want, but my experience is if a client's unhappy with their realtor, it also kind of shows on me because we're all part of the same real estate transaction. If they love Jarom and they love me and they're working with both of us and they go to signing, and I've only had it happen a couple of times in my career, but they go to signing and they get a bummer of an escrow agent who's just got a bad attitude, or they're, kind of talking down about the situation to the buyer, it sets a negative tone for the whole transaction. So I'm just really big on communication between all parties in each transaction and making sure we're all on the same page. And that's what I look for with the people I work with.
I love that. Jarom, what do you look for in a good lender partner? And then I have questions about your team and scaling.
Yeah. Brian, you'd hate to work with us. We are, and most lenders do. It takes a unique lender to be able to support our incredibly amazing and needy agents here. We do mainly online leads. Since we're a newer team, that we start with online leads. Now, a lot of our seasoned agents, they have their book of business, their sphere deals. Those deals are a whole lot easier for the agent and the lender. But when you're working an online lead, it's just a different ball game. Mm-hmm. And you're chasing these leads and you are doing everything you can to get an appointment with them or to meet them at a house and to get them to talk to a lender to see if they're qualified. And what we look for in a good lender is someone who's really 24/7 like we are. And if a lender is not willing to work weekends, it won't work for us. With the type of leads that we and clients that we work with, they need that Saturday, Sunday availability. And a lot of big banks out there and big lenders, they don't work weekends like realtors. We have no options because that's when people want to see homes. And so we need our lender to be available basically 24/7, weekends, holidays. And that's one of the biggest things that we look for in our lender. Going back to Brian's point, us as realtors, we're horrible with paperwork. It's just the way that it is. Oh. And we've helped mitigate that issue with title and lending through in-house transaction coordination. And so that's helped save a lot of deals from pushing close of escrow. And it's expensive, but it's definitely worth the money for our team. But I would say the biggest thing for us with a lender is someone who's 24/7.
And I like this because I wanted to do a podcast to talk about all of the different ways you can be successful in real estate and how there really is like a way that everybody can sort of run their business. Because I did do online leads for a while. It is a completely different ballgame. They are you reap really, really quick rewards, but you gotta be ready to just really get, I am one of those people who likes to cold call. I used to enjoy cold calling. I made 30,000 cold calls when I got in the business. I'm a cold caller. You can't make
Yeah.
people do that. There's a certain sort of insanity that likes to do that. And
Absolutely.
But but you don't have to do that because I know plenty of agents as well that have built successful businesses and not necessarily sort of made a cold call. Because the
Right.
conversion leads, and I haven't worked online leads in a few years. I've been in the management role for a few now. But when I was calling online leads, it was like 2%. Like I'd have to literally get a hold of 100 to convert. Is it still that brutal?
It depends on your lead source. Like a typical like Google pay-per-click is around 2 to 3%. We're premier partners with Zillow here in Phoenix, and our conversion ratio with them is like 10%.
Okay. And you're
It's like
getting
we were talking about this morning, Megan, where you said, you're Tiffany, like text every day, because those of us who don't love cold calling or just aren't used to cold calling, or even, you have a lead and you're like, how often can I follow up before I'm like really bothering this person and I don't want to get yelled at and
and understand the source when you're coming from, because if you're fighting for a lead in the Arizona market on Zillow with Jerome, he's got your ass beat, like obviously, like
Right.
he's got a Zillow system ready to go. But I think when you're used to working referrals and you do get an online lead, you're like, oh, they didn't call me back. Like these guys are getting hounded. They looked for houses on the internet, bro. Like they are going into hiding. They're looking to change their last name. Like so you gotta break through into that, which can be sort of the fun. It's probably the best way to deal with it. And I like it too, because like it can be really rapid, but it is definitely a little bit brutal.
Yeah.
Did you ever do any online leads? Because some people have usually tried it, Brian, and when they're
Oh
like,
yeah, no.
yeah.
I used to run a online leads team back when a few of the internet lending sources weren't so heavily, used for lenders. Honestly, the last few years, the online lead sources have really dried up for, I think, on both the mortgage and the real estate side of things. I think Zillow is obviously one of the premier leaders. And Jerome, in your area, are you considered a flex team, a Zillow flex team?
Yep.
Okay.
So our Phoenix and Tucson markets flex. Sholo is not flex. Thank goodness. Because we make
Yeah.
way more money off of flex
Right.
than on the flex program.
Okay. Yeah, I support a team out of Portland that works on the Zillow Flex program, and they dominate the market. I get it. And internet leads are a tough game. They're a little easier for me on the lending side when the real estate side is working them first, because obviously they're making first contact. But just like what Jerome said, as a lender, if you're supporting that, you have to know your clientele type. You have to know that if they're an internet shopper, generally speaking, they're far less patient than a relationship shopper. That means they need immediate contact. Primarily texting right now is how at least in my experience with a lot of these people, getting that initial contact. How quick do you hold your reps accountable to try and make first contact when the lead comes in? What's your time frame? I'm curious.
Yeah, it's 5 seconds or it's
Yep.
dead.
Yep.
If you don't dial them in 5 seconds, you might as well throw it in the trash.
Get them the second that they click that button. That's the most important time, because they're sitting in front of the computer. You can't do it 20 minutes later. So I get that. And a lot of on our end, what my team has tried to do, because I keep my team pretty small, even though our volume is pretty high. We tend to work with a lot of automation as well. So that's why my CRM and what it can do is super important to me. But outside of that, I have a team of, 4, and we work pretty hard to make sure that no matter what, somebody's always on call and someone's able to answer the team line, text through the team line, and get approval links out as quick as possible so people can get their applications in. Leads are no joke, and it doesn't make it easier or harder. You know, a lot of people are like, oh man, I wish I could just pay for a client list and call them. It'd be like shooting fish in a barrel. It's not, you know, it's just a different business model and you need to be prepared for it. So just like you had said, Megan, there are a lot of different ways to be successful in this business. And I think running a strong leads team and a leads model can actually be a shortcut to that success if you're doing it right, which is hard work. So
Absolutely. And it's the same agent who also, hosts like 2 weekends of open houses and is like, I didn't get anything from an open house. Like you
Right.
have to have a lot of real estate conversations, and then you specifically have to have them consistently. Talk to me a little bit about when you guys have been growing your businesses and your teams and you've hit like a level, and what you've done to sort of shift out of that level. You know what I'm talking about? Because unfortunately growth is not like this. You kind of have to go back and forth. What are some maybe some things that you look back on that you kind of see the wisdom of now?
I'm sure Jerome, like hearing the size of his team, I bet you he has a lot more standardization and process behind this than I do. But some things I wish I would have done early on or realized early on. If you are hiring somebody because you want them to, and I'm using air quotes that people can't see, free you up, and you don't have a plan for what that person's going to do, you don't know who you're going to hire. So how are you possibly going to interview that person? You can't hire someone into chaos and expect them to be successful. You need to have a role, you need to have responsibilities, and you need to have a set task list. And when you are interviewing applicants, you need to specifically ask questions around those roles and responsibilities that you want them to take on. Early on, I think I had this, mindset. Very early on in my career, I had somebody telling me, "Oh, just go get a LOA, go get a loan officer assistant." Okay, well, what does that mean? And what do you want that loan officer assistant to do? Are you actually looking for a junior loan officer, or do you just want someone to handle, some of the paperwork and some of the things on the back end? So knowing what you want, not just, man, I want more free time to go sell, or I want this. You specifically need to know what tasks you're bringing someone into, and make sure that the tasks that they're taking on are the best use of freeing up your time to make you more successful. That's the whole point.
I love that, Jerome.
I would agree with that, definitely. You two kind of, as you mentioned, Brian, you're gonna get analysis paralysis. You think about it too much. And when you should sometimes just do it. And that's what happened with me with my transaction coordinator. That was one of the best hires I ever made for myself personally, for my personal business. She would write all of my offers, binders, counter offers, addendums, handle all of my paperwork, my time frames. I mean, that took off such a mental load that I could go out and do more lead generation, which actually paid way more per hour than a paper pusher. And that's how I was able to personally scale my business to going from 2 to 3 deals a month to 6 to 7 deals a month, and having the same workload. Now, as far as the team goes and like bringing on new agents, that honestly was just trial by fire. And we've had some pretty good mentors who own and operate teams much bigger than us, and coaches, and we talk with them once a week. And we've had coaches and mentors for the past 5-6 years, because we know where we want to go, and we do a pretty good job at rubbing shoulders with people who are already there, and they will basically give us their playbook for free, just because there's good people. And there are a lot of really good people out there who kind of just want to give back, and they've made it. They're as big as they want to be, and they'll give you free advice anytime.
That is absolutely true. Talented, successful people do not hold secrets on how they got there. They're willing to shout it from the rooftops, because 99% of the people they talk to aren't willing to put in the hard work to get to where they're at anyway. They are not afraid of sharing tips and secrets to success. People who hold those things to be very guarded, in my opinion, aren't really that successful.
Yeah, it's kind of that scarcity mindset. And when you hang out with those people who are on that scarcity mindset train, they're not the people that you want to hang out with. They're not going to help you get to the next level.
100%. Yeah.
of follow-up do you think versus, and I know it's going to differ between like a referral sort of relationship or versus like a, sort of a cold online lead. Gary Keller, preaches 33 touches a year. What do you gentlemen believe that the sweet spot of connection and follow-up, because we hear that all the time to follow up. How do you follow up? What do you think is the best way?
So that's tough, right? Because you're going to get different age demographics, which statistically your younger generation is going to have less personal contact and they're going to want more email and text. I've actually been told by a number of clients under 30, please don't call and leave me a voicemail. I get anxious when I see that I have a voicemail on my phone. So you just kind of learn, when I first reach out to people, one of the first things I ask them via text, via email, over the phone, how do you prefer that I contact you? And then I enter that into my CRM, and that becomes the primary source of communication, whether that's phone call, text, or email. I will say it is different for the relationship clients versus the online leads. My CRM, I have two different categories for clients. The online leads, I do tend to hit with a more aggressive contact ratio because they need that immediate contact and follow-up. And I don't know how true this is anymore, but it used to take an average of 4 to 5 communication points to get an online lead to reach out. If you weren't able to get them immediately, it's going to take a few times of making sure you're on their radar so that they know you're there to help. So I will say I'm a little bit more aggressive than most, especially, when it comes to online leads. Day one, it's an immediate phone call the second that we can. If the phone call went to voicemail or didn't go through, you send a text message, and about an hour to 2 hours later, there's a follow-up email.
Great. How many times do you think for the online leads, you think, like how long do you go? And then I want to obviously hear Jerome's answers to these too. Like when is it? Because like you said, it might take 4 or 5 times for you to actually get them to respond to you.
I have never been afraid of being told no. I think I had to ask my wife out for like 4 or 5 years before she finally said yes.
Nice.
So when you say no, I just kind of in my head, I'm like, oh, you just don't understand my point of view yet. You'll get it eventually. But honestly, with the online leads, I'm either looking for you to talk to me and tell me, yes, you're interested so I can work with you, or say, no, I don't want to talk to you. I've already got someone else I want to use. I'm actually very happy with a no response because then I can mark you off my list, right? And I can move on to the next person. So I'm not afraid to keep up that contact rate for, at least the first couple of weeks. And I'm not badgering them every single day with 4 or 5 messages. I think that's a little ridiculous. But you definitely hit them up day 1, day 2, with all, text, email, phone call. And then when you get a little bit later in the week, you tend to then separate it out. You have a follow-up email. Hey, sorry, I didn't hear back from you. The next day you might have a follow-up text because you're not sure what people respond well to in their communication style.
Absolutely. Jerome, tell us about like frequency, conversion. What are the magic stats?
Yeah, gosh, follow-up is everything, and that's where the fortune is. And if you can't follow up, if all you're looking to do is close like the low-hanging fruit of the leads who are, I'm buying right now, I need a home right now. If those are the people you're closing, you might sell 6 homes a year, at least on our team. But if you can master the follow-up, which our CRM helps with most of the legwork, you can easily sell 3 to 4 homes a month on our team with the lead flow. So yeah, I tend to reach out more than less, and our system does a lot of that reach out for us, so that we don't have to. So our system will text and email where all we're doing is just phone calls. But it's huge. Follow up is absolutely the key to success as a realtor, because someone will reach out to you initially with a question, but they're not ready, and they're not going to be ready for 6 months, or they got to get pre-qualified and they got to line out their finances over the next 8 to 12 months to get their credit score to a 700 and to 550. There's a lot of time and a lot of things that you have to do usually to be able to get them under contract and to sell them a home. And if you're not touching them constantly, if you're not top of mind, you will lose them, because there's websites like realtor.com, Zillow, who will snatch them up the second they're interested again. And if you're not top of mind, they will use somebody else, because it's unlikely that you provided enough value in that initial phone call to where they're going to reach out to you again when they are actively looking.
Great. I do you know that what's the statistic? I think it's only 8% or something of the audience at any time is like ready to buy now, if that. You do have to continually follow up and remind. And we were talking about it on Mastermind the other day. Like we get bombarded like with sales texts and things from like Costco and shit. You know what I mean? Like we get a lot of text messages. So like to not follow up with your lead because you're worried about bothering them via text. Like I get texts for stupid crap all day long. You know what I mean? Like you would have to send a few more to sort of break through that haze and build a relationship. That's great. Is there any other sort of tools that you gentlemen use that you think are great and wish you would have found sooner in your career that made things drastically easier?
I have one. There's a plugin with our CRM called GGMS, and that has been a game changer for us. We've been used to just setting manual tasks for every lead in our system, and with manual tasks, it creates a lot of burnout. And I felt the burnout, our agents felt the burnout. And what GGMS does is it nudges you to call or text somebody based off of their behavior on your website. And so that's one tool that I wish I would have found, back in 2010 when I started 14, 15 years ago. So that would have made a huge difference for me.
And what does that do specifically? Again, it tracks their. What does that do specifically? Again, it tracks their them on your website or on. Is it part of their app?
Yeah, it tracks them on your website, but what it also does is it'll send them emails, random stuff about real estate in general, just to create engagement. And so they've done a really good job at methodically creating these action plans of emails, depending on what stage they're in the home buying process, if they're a hot or a nurture or a watch, a year out, 2 years out, 6 weeks out. It sends them emails to re-engage them in the home buying experience. And so if they click on any of these emails or these links in these emails, the system can read it, and it'll then direct you on how to best follow up with that person. So instead of calling Mary, who says, "Oh, I'm just browsing, not super serious," well, instead of setting a to-do 6 months down the road, it'll tell you when to call Mary, because it'll tell you when she's re-engaging. And there's people who say, "Oh, I'm a year out," but the data will actually suggest otherwise. And so the GGMS will say, "Hey, these guys are actually closer to like 3 to 4 months out, not a year out." They're probably telling you a year to get you off the phone. And so GGMS does a great job at collecting that data and telling you how best to follow up, so it's not a guessing game anymore.
That's great. Brian, do you have any tools, technology systems that you wish you'd found a little sooner?
I mean, this one might be kind of a selfish plug because I'm kind of an ambassador for the company. But one thing for the last couple of years that we've seen a dramatic increase in our business with, they're growing in the number of states where they actually have a footprint, but they're licensed in all 50 states. There's an online education company. It was specific. It was originally created for veterans to be able to give back to them, because we found that was the group that was probably taken advantage of the most. So they needed more education, specifically around VA loans, because there are a lot of nuances with those that other loan types don't carry. And so I've partnered up with a company called Frontline Homes. It's frontlinehomes.com. Their parent company is Frontline Education. Anyway, so frontlinehomes.com, they provide free online education to home buyers. And They don't have to pay anything. They sign up with their email and phone number. And if you're, let's see if I can get it right, military, either prior military or active duty. We used to call it nurses, but now we changed that to medical, because if you're an X-ray tech, you still qualify. Teachers, educators, firefighters, first responders, they can, police officers, they can go in there and they can qualify for this free homebuyers education course. And when they pass it and they get their certificate, I think it's like 5-minute videos. So it's not overwhelming, right? This is for the person who wants to do some research that is working ahead of time. And once they pass those courses, they're now a more educated buyer. They know what they're doing. They know what qualifications they need to prepare for if they're a few months out. And then they get paired with a Frontline Homes lender and realtor. Jarom, shameless plug, I happen to be the ambassador who's on the lookout for a group out of Arizona. So I may hit you up on the side. But so Frontline Homes then requires the lender and the realtor group that is involved with this to take ongoing education, and they have to put a portion of their commission, you have to put your money where your mouth is. You can say you support veterans all day long, but are you willing to give back? And the way that the program's set up, I'll give you an example. I had a veteran put zero down on like a $500,000 home in Georgia recently. And I want to say his Frontline Homes credit was like $8,400. So it was enough to cover all of his closing costs, and he was doing a zero down loan anyway. If you were going to pay your own closing costs, you could use that towards a rate buy down. There are a number of different ways you can use those funds. But it's a great system, and I've used it for the last couple of years, and it's flourishing pretty well. We're growing state by state. So it makes my job easier, because then by the time I get the client, they've gone through education, and it's cut out half of my work for me up front just by them watching those videos, and they understand the process and they understand what information they're going to need to have to make this huge purchase. So
Great. Jerome, where can our listeners find you if they have questions on Arizona real estate stretching into St. George, Utah, TBD?
Yeah, I'm pretty easy. I've got a unique name. So you can find me at Jarom Rogers on Instagram. And then once you find me there, you can find me pretty much anywhere else. Great.
Brian, where can our listeners find you if they have mortgage questions in almost
they can find me online. They can go to my website, pnwloans.com, pnwloans.com. Or they're welcome to call or text me. My cell phone number is 509-701-1486. There you go, internet.
It's out there. Great. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next episode.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And then I'm not going to hit end yet.